Jay here, straight for Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm live. I'm in my kitchen with all the latest Manchester United news. So make sure you're getting involved in the chat and the comments. Going to be talking about the international break. It's a bit meh in it for most Manchester United fans, regardless of which nationality you're supporting, what country you're from. I just find the international break, it's just an unwelcome distraction, to be honest with you. But we're getting into that. We'll be getting into the latest transfer news, because even though the window's shut, it pretty much has shut, there's still a couple of updates there on that front. And we'll be looking ahead to the Manchester derby. We have been looking ahead already this week at the Manchester derby. I know Joe and Steve were chatting about yesterday and what Amorim's tactics might be, but we'll be getting into all that. So make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe. Good to see so many people in the chat already. Jacoya Trot, Real Recognises Real, Santa Notch is in there, Miss Man United is in there, Kevin Credible, Harry on the Boat, Danny Sabbath. Morning. Looks like Mamouche will be out for the derby. Good news for us. I guess we were talking about Omar Mamouche the other day, me and Joe Smith. And he's one of those players who, when you watch him, he's very good on the ball. As a sort of a rival or as an opponent, when you're up against him, you look at him, you go, he's dangerous, he could cause us problems. But I think his numbers are just okay. I don't think he's that prolific. I don't think he's as effective as perhaps you would fear. There's a touch of the Jeremy Doku's about him. Not in the way he plays, because I think those two players are completely different. But when you watch him on the ball, they're both mint. But actually, the numbers are just fine. Let me know what you think about that anyway. We'll be getting into that. I want to talk to you a little bit about Andre Onana, because you can see it on the thumbnail. I want to talk about Onana and how it's sort of ended like this, and it seems like it has ended. He's obviously got his loan move to Turkey, but I don't think he'll play for Manchester United again, and I don't think he should, to be brutally honest with you. And I struggle to find anyone who disagrees with that. But Andre Onana, it's emerged, I think there was a report in the Metro yesterday evening, that one of the reasons that, or the final straw for Ruben Amorim with Andre Onana was this sort of video footage of him playing football with his mates, basically, on what can only be described as a sort of plot of mud. And apparently he picked up an injury during this time as well. And it was looked at as though maybe that was one of the reasons he picked up an injury, was because he was playing football with his mates, on just not as a goalkeeper, just out playing football with his mates. This video went everywhere. And you look at the state of the pitch, it is like a mud bath. And it's not the sort of pitch that a professional footballer who plays for Manchester United should probably be playing on. He's got to look after himself. I know you want to play football with your mates, no matter how old you are, whatever level you play at. But come on. And according to the Metro, one or two other publications, that was the final straw for Ruben Amorim, because his goalkeeper comes back for pre-season, isn't fit, isn't available for any of the pre-season. We know how vital this pre-season was for Manchester United. It's Ruben Amorim's first pre-season. And one of the big arguments made in Ruben Amorim's favour as to why he hadn't sort of had the success in that first 3 quarters of the season or whatever it was that he needed a pre-season. He needed a full pre-season with his squad to really sort of get them ready for Ruben Amorim's style of football, Barcelona style of play, to get them used to it, to work with them properly without the sort of games coming thick and fast. Because as soon as Ruben Amorim came in, we had a game every 3 or 4 days, didn't we? We were in, I think we were in both cups. Obviously, the FA Cup hadn't started yet. We were in the League Cup. We were in the Europa League and obviously the Premier League. So you've got a game every few days. You haven't got time to sort of to rest properly or to go on the training ground and work, for days on end on certain things, because you've got a game within a few days. So you've got rest days, you've got training, then you've got another game. It was very sort of not rushed, but there was a lot going on, wasn't there? So pre-season was vital. And when your goalkeeper comes back and he's injured because he's been playing with his mates on mud, you can only imagine how frustrating that is for the manager. So Kate Leyland says, is that a cage for a child? You don't need to go into that. Andy G says, morning Jay, morning Reds. So Ruben Amorim's frustrated. We know that when Andre Onana was fit, he wasn't picked. He stuck with all it by and didn't he, Ruben Amorim? But it was obvious that we needed a new goalkeeper. And that's one of the reasons we looked at Son Lammens, why he's come in. And you can already see there's a certain thing about Lammens. I don't know whether he's going to be a success at Manchester United. I hope he will be. But he does seem to have quite a mature head for a young lad, doesn't he? 23, I think he is. You see from his interviews, you see from some of the games he's played, he's obviously, choose my words carefully, a little bit saner than what we've seen from Andre Onana. Should we put it that way? Is that safe to say? It seems like a safer option on all fronts. And Andre Onana, I don't want to kick the guy while he's down, because obviously he's hurt and his move to Manchester United hasn't worked out. Manchester United's most expensive goalkeeper ever, I think, replacing David De Gea. A lot of fanfare, a lot of expectation. coming from a Champions League finalist team, and it just didn't work out. And, he's become almost a figure of fun now. And that's continuing. That's continuing this week. I don't know if you saw the game for Cameroon. Was it against Cape Verde, where he had a bit of a stinker with the goal. The goal's pretty much right down the middle, and he more or less gets out of the way of the ball. Doesn't look great. And I've seen footage on social media as well of him pushing a fan away who's trying to get a selfie. I don't know what was said. I don't know if the fans winding him up. I don't know what's going on there. But it just adds to this whole air that Andre Onana is a bit disastrous, and that this is one of the reasons why the manager was like, look, we cannot continue like this. Something has to change. We need to bring in another goalkeeper. And let's be honest, we've had our opportunity, or Alton Bayindir's had an opportunity now. It's not just this season, it's last season as well. And he's always got one in him. So make of that what you will. To me, it looks as though the combination of all those things has just made the managers think, look, we need to bring in someone else. We know the club is sort of doing this thing, or this policy of bringing in players, not just for the here and now, but for the future as well. And Lammens from Antwerp certainly fits that bill. Let me know what you think. Bilal Titanium MUFC says he's just crap, Jay. Yep, fair enough. Matt Wick says there can't be any hesitation with playing Lammens. He has to be there every game this season. Get involved in the chat. Let me know what you think. Would you throw him in straight at the into the derby? Big question. I mentioned it on Monday's news, and one or two people were saying, Jay, how can this even be a debate? How can you honestly say that we should be playing at Alton Bayindir? I get that argument. I just don't know whether the manager will agree. Is the manager going to think the Etihad, a lot of pressure there, could be a step too far for Lammens? I don't know. I don't know what the manager will say or think. You may do. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat and the comments, because there's a big decision there, isn't there, for Ruben Amorim to make, and it'll be interesting to see what he does. Danny Sabu says, I'm not so sure Onana will do well in Turkey. Fans there are way more vocal than we are. Relentless. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, United Rules says, yes, play Lammens. John Tucker says, Onana is the worst goalkeeper in Man United history. Matic was right. Doc Rock says, people act like Onana was not a top keeper in the Prem for a while. Easy to call a player crap from a keyboard. Empathy for throwing his career. Yeah, we don't know what happened. Yeah, there was a time, and I think me and Joe give him the kiss of death. We did a video on Onana. I think it was the beginning of last season, because he actually had a really good spell, and he was beginning to look like the player we hoped he would be. In the Premier League, he'd had a few good games where he really stepped up. And we were like, look, he's at this current moment in time one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League. And that was like the kiss of death for him, because sort of immediately after that, he went on this horrendous run where he was just having a bit of a stinker. So, yeah, I do feel like we don't want to rewrite history completely and pretend that Andre Onana never had any good games for Manchester United, or never had any good games for Inter or for Ajax. He did. However, he had too many bad ones. And it's obvious that that wasn't going to be sustainable. And the managers sort of thought, right, enough is enough. We need to move on. Just talking, someone mentioned there about Turkey and about Andre Onana might struggle in Turkey. Well, we're not quite done with our transfers, it seems, to Turkey, because it seems that Tyrell Malacia is going to be heading there as well. He looks like he's being linked with a club, and forgive me for getting this one wrong, of pronunciation is not my strong point, as you all know. Eyüpspor. It looks like they're in for Tyrell Malacia. He's the last one in it out of this so-called bomb squad, which is a pretty harsh name to give Tyrell Malacia, because I think Joe mentioned this yesterday, and I've mentioned this before. The worst thing Tyrell Malacia did was going to see his own surgeon rather than the one the club wanted him to see when it came to getting his, I think it was his knee, his surgery on his knee. Didn't work out, exacerbated the injury, or wasn't successful, and that annoyed the club that he'd done that. But I don't think you can throw in Tyrell Malacia as a particularly problematic player. Anyway, it looks like he could be going to Turkey. The Turkish window is, of course, still open. So that would be it for this window. And that would be pretty much what United needed to do. I think the only one you could look at, the only area you could look at in terms of where we could have maybe gone a step further, it would have been the perfect window, a 10 out of 10 window, would have been bringing in Carlos Balevia. And I think just on that front as well, there was a bit of an update. But first of all, I'll get into some of the chat and the comments. Let us know what you think. Alex says Dorgu equals Malacia without the injury. I think that's a bit harsh. I like Patrick Dorgu, and I thought he was very, very good in pre-season. I mean, I don't know, you might rate Tyrone Malacia, to be fair. And I thought Malacia did a job for a bit, didn't he, when he came in, but wasn't good enough. B. Hugh says, Erik ten Hag's signings were woeful. If you look at the signings that Erik ten Hag made, Lisandro Martinez, very good player. I think that's the pick of the bunch. Injuries have obviously scuppered his time at United, but I always think to myself, if a transfer is successful, you ask yourself that question if you want to know whether it's successful. If you could go back in time, would you still make that signing? I would still sign Lisandro Martinez. I still have hope that Lisandro Martinez will be a successful Manchester United player. I think when he's fit, he's very, very good. And I think he fits into this system. I know he's bought for a different system, but I think he fits in perfectly to this Ruben Amorim system. So I definitely think Lisandro Martinez was a worthwhile signing. Christian Eriksen, again, I think that was a worthwhile one on a free transfer. Did a very good job. And I keep saying it, but I'll say it again. I think he was very, very good indeed until that Andy Carroll injury, which was just bullying, really, wasn't it? Andy Carroll chasing him around the pitch when we played Reading in the FA Cup. And then obviously injuring him, and he wasn't quite the same for me after that. Obviously, he was getting on a bit too. But a signing you would have made. Malacia did a job for a bit. I mean, it was a bit of a no-brainer for 12 million quid or whatever it was. The big one that's always that ten Hag's judge on, Antony, not really a good signing, massively overpaid, shouldn't have happened. There's a few that are a bit of a grey area, isn't there? Rasmus Højlund had a good first season, didn't quite work out. Probably not what you expect from a 70-odd million pound player. Andre Onana had some decent spells, but overall, not a good signing. Certainly not worth, was it 45 million we paid for him? Mason Mount, I think he's a player that's showing what he's worth this season. He's been very good. I'm hoping he's going to be back for the derby because I think his performances this season in particular have been, they've sort of reminded you why you want Mason Mount in your team. And there's one or two others, I think. Mazraoui, good signing. De Ligt, good signing. Euro, good signing, but they feel a little bit more like Ineos, some of those signings. Let me know what you think anyway, because Erik ten Hag does get a lot of criticism now where everyone's sort of, Casemiro, I almost forgot about him. Probably overpaid for him for his age, but did a very good job in that first season. Since then, up and down. Malacia was okay when he played and pushed Shaw to another level. Shame he got the injury, says Adam Barlow. Martin P says, thing is with Antony, if the price was 40 to 50 million, it would be the same combo. Would it be the same combo, of him being a massive flop? Probably not. MB Creator says, I agree with you, chap. In my opinion, Eriksen was one of the best signings United ever made in a while. Quality-wise, shame about his injury limitations. Yeah, you look at Christian Eriksen's performances up until that injury. They were very good. And I just don't think he quite came back the same player. He just lost a little bit of something. Not a lot, but a little bit that probably made him not good enough to start for Manchester United anymore. And also, there was some situations where, was it the Newcastle game? I think our midfield was Casemiro and Eriksen against the likes of Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes. And I know Joshua Zirkzee got a lot of stick in that game and got subbed after half an hour or whatever. But that midfield was just getting absolutely bullied. Hit that like button, please, people. Don't forget as well, there's a link in the description. People have been asking about this. We have got merchandise for sale from the Stretford Paddock store, some of which I'm wearing now. So you can go and check that out. I'll put a little link in there as well in the chat. Go and check that out. We've got all sorts of new merchandise from the Stretford Paddock store. It's all Stretford Paddock stuff. So go and check it out. Solomon Jr. says, Mount has never been good in United shirt. I would disagree. I think he's had a pretty good season so far this season. I just hope this injury he got against Burnley isn't a serious one, because that is the biggest problem with Mason Mount. He's the only player really, I think, that's been given that third season who hasn't really done much in his first two seasons. Because you look at Rasmus Højlund going into his third season, wasn't given the opportunity, was moved on to Napoli. Andre Onana has just been moved on to Trabzonspor. I'm missing anyone? I feel like I might be. Forgive me. But Mason Mount's going into his third season. Didn't really do a lot in his first two seasons, but he's being given opportunity. Obviously, he's not going anywhere this summer because the window's short and he's not going to go to Saudi or Turkey. But I feel like he can say, well, look, it's injuries. That's the reason I've not done what I should have done. It's not performances or not being good enough. It's just injuries, but he has to step up. We'll have to wait and see. CTB says he was injury prone before we signed him. We already knew this, but signed him anyway. Arlo Bobbins says, if you had to pick one of Garner or Angel Gomez to return, who would you pick? I'd go with Jimmy Garner. Let me know what you think. Stephanie Griffith says, United need to create a fully functional midfield quartet. Central duo is pivotal, so to speak. Yeah, just on that front, because obviously the Carlos Baleba rumours, reports, whatever you want to call them, are not going away, are they? And I think Romano gave an update. I think it was yesterday evening, and it's just the same and the same. It's more of the same. And the update was basically saying that United are gonna go back in for him next summer. The focus is on Carlos Baleba. It seems highly unlikely we'll go for him in January. There have been some reports that could happen, but it does feel like the sort of the thinking at United is we want Baleba. We're not gonna panic and go for someone else for big money. That's the focus. Get him in. He's our long-term choice. And that makes sense to me. And maybe in the past, Manchester United have done that thing where we've settled for the second or third choice player when we couldn't get the first, and it's been to the detriment of the team. Let me know what you think. Santa Knox says, I worry that some fans are going to judge Lammens way too early if he's going to be starting. Let me know what you think, Knox. Would you start him for the derby? What would you do? The trouble you've got, there's no easy option here. There's no perfect option where you go, well, that's a no-brainer. Because most people are saying Lammens should start the derby, and I get that. But the sort of counter-argument is, if he starts the derby and has a bit of a difficult game, is that going to hinder his progress at United before he's even got going? But if you don't play Lammens, can you trust Alec Bayandere after his performances in United shirt? Probably not. That leaves Tom Eaton. Do you bring Tom Eaton back? And I love Tom Eaton. I think he's a very good player and he's a top bloke. Do you bring him back into the team? Also, what does that say to Bayandere? It's not an easy decision to make. You may think it is. You may think it's a no-brainer. Let me know what you think. CTB says, confidence is a thing we can't risk setting our new keeper up to fail. You see, this is the thing. This is the debate here, because CTB says we can't risk him. Tobias Nilsson says he should start. So you can see. Santa Knox says, yeah, no easy option. I'd start Lammens. We brought De Gea in at 19, shaky to start, but then grew into the role. Yeah, I get that argument. In all honesty, and you ask me this question on a different day, you probably get a different answer. I'd chuck him in. I would. I'd chuck Lammens in. Yeah. And listen, I'm not the Manchester United manager for a good reason. That might not even be the best answer, but that's what I do. Let me know what you think. I saw an interesting article on the BBC, and I don't often say that, but it's true. And I don't want to be sort of, what's it called, toxic positive or have any toxic positivity. But there's an article here by Chris Collins, and it says, why Man United have been better than their results. And it says, we're just 2 Premier League wins since the start of April. It seems only a fool would say that Manchester United have been improving under Ruben Amorim. And yet that's exactly what the stats suggest. While only Tottenham have taken fewer points in their last 10 games, United's underlying numbers suggest their performances have deserved more. And if anything, it's the players who have underperformed more than Amorim and his much maligned formation. We've excluded penalties to show how good United have been at creating and restricted chances themselves, rather than relying on opposition clumsiness or shirt pulling like they did to score the winner against Burnley. As you can see, there's a graph here I'll go into. United have taken the most shots in the Premier League in the last 10 games, while only rivals Manchester City have faced fewer among the 17 sides ever present during the time frame. So teams that have been relegated don't count, and teams that have been promoted don't count. The big problem has been scoring and saving them, with United's players scoring 7 goals fewer than Premier League players have historically from the chances they've had, and conceding 4 goals more. So if you were to go off XG over the last 10 games, excluding penalties, United's rank is 3rd. If you just go on shots, United ranks 1st. Yet goals, we rank 17th. And shot conversion, we rank 17th. There's like almost relegation form. Defensively, goals conceded, 14th. Shot faced, 2nd. So the XG difference overall would put us in 7th. So you can see, listen, I'm not going to get carried away and say, that's it, we've turned a corner. I've been saying we've turned a corner since we beat Arsenal under David Moyes. But you can see there's something there. And anyone who watches this channel knows me. I'm a simple man. Simple things. Watching the game, yeah, it is a crazy idea. Watching Manchester United games, are you seeing a team that looks better than it did for the bulk of last season? Yeah, I am. I watched the Arsenal game and I was excited. I thought we played well, and I thought we created a lot of chances. And I thought, people don't want to bring it up, but I will. We were robbed. That should have been a penalty. I watched the Fulham game. Overall, wasn't great. A draw at Craven Cottage when you're 1-0 up isn't something that you're going to get the bunting out for. But there were signs there, especially in those first sort of 10 minutes, whatever it was. I know it's not enough. but you could see what was happening. You could see the sort of style of play that was coming in. I thought, yeah, that's positive. Even the Burnley game, which became the narrative around this penalty and United smash and grab 97th minute winner and all the rest of it. United, for big chunks of that game, were pretty dominant, and we should have scored more goals than we did. So you can see it just from watching the games, what's going on. You can see there's improvements there, and the stats back that up. So whilst I don't want to sit here and go, look, United, everything's rosy and it's wonderful, and I can't believe how lucky I am to be, to be a United fan right now, even though I am lucky to be a United fan overall. You can see that there's been an improvement. You can see what the manager is trying to do. And I just hope you'll see it too, because you know my thoughts on Ruben Amorim. Let me know what you think. Let me know. Get involved in the chat and the comments. I know one of the biggest criticisms or pushbacks when it comes to defending Ruben Amorim, to defending the results, or to saying that you back this manager, is people will say you're going off hypotheticals. I'm going off evidence. The evidence is Manchester United finished 15th last season, lost the final to Spurs, and have already lost their homes already this season. That's the evidence I've got to say I don't think this manager's up to the job. Whereas people like me who say, well, I think he is, will say things like, well, if we'd have converted that, if we'd have got that penalty, if this had happened, there's a lot of hypotheticals. However, sometimes hypotheticals can show you something. Let me know what you think. I'm interested to see what you guys think. Mank Revolution says, we won't get thrashed by City. Have you watched them this year? I've watched City, not been impressed with what I've seen. Watched them against Spurs, and I thought Spurs were good value for their win. I thought Spurs were the much better team. And it's funny, innit? Because everyone after that game was going, Frank's a genius. Spurs are amazing. We should have got Thomas Frank. And then I think a week later, they lose to Bournemouth. And everyone's going, well, actually. And they lose, I think it was only 1-0, but I think Bournemouth had like 3 times or 4 times as many shots, whatever it was. I can't remember the stats. Got better things to do in the time than go through the stats of Spurs versus Bournemouth. But Bournemouth were good value for their win. This is interesting. Arlo Bobbins says, I don't really consider anything less than 5 games form. That lad's hair's getting untenable, isn't it? You've seen that lad who's growing his hair, and he's going to cut it when United win 5 in a row. And his hair's just become like Marouane Fellaini on steroids. I don't know if he's ever going to cut his hair again. I think I read a stat somewhere. Someone said like even likes of Arsenal and Liverpool and City didn't win 5 in a row last season. So I don't know how long he's going to have to wait. The poor lad. Plus he's got no bet 1 cup competition. We'll have to wait and see. Irish Farmer says, so shots are not high quality. Bob A says, don't look over the Grimsby performance. C.J. James John says, Jay should try it. Yeah, should I try growing my hair until we get 5 in a row? Won't be any different. CTV says, our form is 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. Not great, not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. I think we're going to really find out what Manchester United are about on Sunday. It's Sunday, isn't it, the game? You've got a Manchester City team who have struggled this season, but I think Erling Haaland just scored, was it 5 goals for Norway or something daft against Moldova? He's going to be chomping at a bit. He's going to be on form because he always is. So you're going to have to go up against him. Rodri's, I think he's been back for a couple of games now. Is he going to be match fit now? Is he going to be ready for this game? There's lots of ifs and buts. We'll have to wait and see. But I don't know, man. Maybe it's just me being stupid. But I think we can get a result against City. I really do. Akiba says City is a free game. No one expects a win. So go all out and risk Lammens, etc. Stephen Griffey says 48 away from 200 likes. Yeah, hit that like button, please, people. Andrew says City will raise their game to players. Let me know. I know it's early doors and we've got a few days. We're going to do the preview later on in the week. And I don't want to get too sort of ahead of myself. But I am curious, what do you guys think about the predictions for the weekend? We're going to do the preview, obviously, closer to the game. We're going to be looking ahead to the game as well, probably later on tonight and tomorrow and Friday as well. Probably off the bat tomorrow, we'll be focusing on that as well because it is such a seminal and important game. But what do you reckon? Irish Varma says, I think we can use shots on target as a good measure of how good the quality of our shots is. Where do we rank on shots on target? Does that little stat say? It just says shots. It says 165 shots on this graph that the BBC have posted. And the shot conversion rate is 5.5%. So it doesn't say shots on target. We can maybe look at that for another video another time. And that'll give us a clear indication. I get that. I think that's a good point. Also, the quality of the shots. You can have a shot from 30 yards out, can't you? It's a shot, but it was never going to go in. So sometimes you have to sort of scratch beneath the surface some of these statties. I'll get in some more comments here. Trevor Fever says, I believe United will beat City. JB says, my grade is that we do beat City, but then revert to type against Chelsea. Yeah, that could happen. Glenn F in the chat as well. Shots on target is kind of useless, says Dan. So there's a bit of debate going on about whether shots on target is helpful or useless. I'm going to leave it there. I think we've discussed enough. Adam Barlow says the XG tells you the quality of the chances. Yeah, and I think sorry, I said I was going to leave it there. The XG would put us third in the league. Whatever, so you can make what you will of that. Going to be back later on today. It's all happening today. I think Finn's coming in, so we're going to have Academy review. We're going to have Agree or Disagree. Then we've got the live later on with me and Joe. So make sure if you're not doing so already, you are hitting like, share, and subscribe. Go and check out the link that I put in the description as well. We've got Paddock merch there. We've got a new line of merch there, all sort of Stretford Paddock stuff. You've probably seen it all over our socials as well. So go and check out some of the stuff we've got on that front as well. And yep, I will see you later tonight. This has been it from not so sunny Salford. It's pretty mild here in Salford. Thanks for watching.